Hey everyone, it's Deborah Eckerling and you're watching Goal Chat Live. For those of you who don't know me, I am the founder of the Deb Method and author of Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals. And I'm so excited today because we have an awesome guest, Naomi Nakashima, who's actually one of my regulars for my Goal Chat Twitter chat on Sunday nights, is joining us today. And she was in the chat last night. I'll be sure to put the recap in the comments. And now we get you live and in person as well. And Naomi is, among other things, the founder, producer, etc., of the Freelance Writing Success Summit, which is next week. But you do like a ton of things, right?
I do a lot.
You know of what you speak. So can you just briefly explain what the Freelance Writing Success Summit is? And more importantly, what compelled you, as if we don't know, to create this new event?
Well, doing some sort of writing summit has always been on my list of things that I would like to do someday. When COVID-19 hit, I was in one of my many writing groups, and a lot of people started coming in going, I'm about to lose my job. How do I get into freelance writing? Or there were so many freelance writers who were in the hospitality niche and or the traveling niche, and they were out of a job. Like overnight, their clients just dried out. And I thought, man, there's got to be a way. Like I was trying to answer questions, and I thought, man, there's got to be a way to help on a larger scale. And that was when I decided to set my fear aside and say, you know what, I bought this software like 2 years ago, and I just had to use it. So I was like, now's the time to just do it. Just, get out there and do it and try to help as many people pivot and start a writing career as I could. And luckily I had a lot of friends who were like, yes, I'm in.
That is awesome. And fortunately, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, let me talk, because like you, I'm all for helping people. And as I mention a lot, my book, Your Goal Guide, came out in January, and who knew by March, everybody would have to reboot their life, which the book was written for that reason. When change happens, whether it's by choice or circumstance, if you know what you want, you can make a plan and it makes it a lot less scary. Well, and then change happened to everyone. So everyone. So I totally give you snaps for, jumping on the ball. I'm very excited because my session is next Monday, the 29th. And there's so much good content there. And I've looked at the schedule, and I will be not just watching, attending. Because one thing too about continuing education, which I'm sure you know, is even if you pick up one or two new things, it's worth it.
Yes. And that is so true. It's every time I look at something, I'm like, well, what if just one tip helped, land extra clients every week, or saved me 10 minutes a day in streamlining my process? Or, if it was just one tip that can better something about my business, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. And another thing that you've done that a lot of people are doing is embracing, tech. This, as you mentioned before, you've had access to this technology for a while, you said, right? But it was like the push you needed. Okay. I like to say how now I've been running my Goal Chat Twitter chat. It's now in its third year, but I got the account for it like, hello, cutie pie. Sorry. I got the account. Anybody who knows you knows your kids from being online. Anyway, right?
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. They don't let me stay by myself for very long.
Well, that's good. I'm sure he will have lots of fun things to teach us. So my point being, I got my Goal Chat Twitter account like 3 years before I even started it. So sometimes you have that information that you want to get out there, and then something happens, and then you go charge forward and help other people. So without further ado, because we've done enough ado already, we're going to go through the questions from last night's Goal Chat. And the first one, and I'll answer it and then you can jump on in, is what are some of the common areas of freelancing? and you touched on this before, but the other part of it, well, the main thing that I said last night is a lot of fields of communication are common for freelancing, whether it's writing, editing, PR, and then also you've got the consulting end. A lot of people, I guess it's also called consultancy, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people freelance, and even now when all the industries are changing, we've got to do a lot of freelancing and hustling and whatever. So what did I miss? What are some other common areas of freelancing? And if you're watching and we missed something, please let us know in the chat what other areas there are.
Basically, if you have a skill that a corporation would normally hire for, then you can freelance for it. So that might include graphic design, photography, obviously the writing, like you said, editing, I believe you mentioned as well. But there's almost every step within a corporate workflow entails a skill set. And if you have that skill set and can package it up, you can freelance.
Right. And for the summit, you're focused on writing.
Yes, I made this specifically for writing, primarily because there are so many resources out there for general entrepreneurship. And I don't know a whole lot about things like photography, or even like I make my own graphics, but I don't know enough to know how to teach someone how to make graphics. So I wanted to really focus in on what I knew, and the people that I knew would deliver the message and get the information in front of the writers. And I kind of left everyone else to go find some of the other resources.
Okay, so you've already mentioned some of this as well, but some of the benefits of freelancing, and I think this is something that I mentioned as well last night on the chat, is if you have a niche. I mean, my skill is helping people figure out what they want and how to get it, aka goal setting. I also do freelance project management. So I'm definitely, and I've been writing and editing freelance for a lot of years. So as a freelancer, you do have, and we're going to go to the challenges of it in a second, but you do have that fun little benefit, which is you can own your niche. You can set your time and your what you want to do. You set your hours. Now you also have to remember not to overwork, but tell that to most freelancers and they'll laugh at you. But the other thing is, so instead of having one client, when you'd have a job, you have like a ton of different clients. So you can consider that either a benefit or a challenge of freelancing.
Yes. And actually, it's a lot of freelancers feel more secure when they have multiple hats that they're wearing for different clients. They actually draw on several skill sets. So even like your average freelance writer will also be editor, proofreader, book formatter, or some other semi-related niche, which helps them offer more services to more clients, and it helps keep those clients coming back.
Yeah, that's true. When you can do more things and they don't have to look elsewhere, you get to be the one-stop shop.
Yeah.
And it used to be, and this even like 3, 4, 5 years ago, if you did more than one thing, people are like, really? But now if you don't do more than one thing, people kind of look at you funny.
That is true, yes.
So it's also the balance. But another part to put and I get this question a lot too, should you specialize or not? And sometimes having that umbrella kind of niche is good, but you have to find your umbrella. I mean, I do most of my projects is Project Catalyst for communication. So that brings in the writing projects, editing, whatever kinds of communication sort of projects. By the same token, someone comes to me and they want to get a plan for their business, they'll come to me first and then they will go to someone to help them drag out the details. But it really starts with figuring out your umbrella, because that way you can really showcase yourself, know what clients you need, and really be able to showcase yourself as a freelancer that you are or want to be, and get the business that you would like. Okay, so what else? What other benefits of freelancing did we miss?
Well, of course, there's the obvious. You get to work for yourself, and if you take advantage and you remember that you're working for yourself, you get to set your own hours, as well as your rates. And this is actually to piggyback on your find your umbrella. One of the really good benefits with finding your umbrella and deciding exactly which services you want to offer and to whom is that you're never caught off guard. If someone says, "Hey, how much would you charge for this?" You're not going, "Oh, well, I've never done it before." So you already have a plan. You know how much it's going to cost you to do it. You know how much time it's going to take, and you already have a good plan of how much to charge for it.
Know thyself.
Yes.
or in Deb method speak, determine your mission, explore your options, brainstorm your path, figure out what you want, and then turn it into a reality. And once you know all these things, then you really are better to serve clients and yourself.
Yes. And you're not likely to short yourself.
Well, that's another thing too. And this came up in the conversation last night as well. And I think it came in as part of the answer to this question, which is what type of challenges do freelancers face? And I think the saying no problem comes up a lot. It's, oh, you're a freelancer. It'll take you 5 minutes. You can do this for me. Oh, you don't have other obligations. It's not a problem for you. And it's like, come on. In a lot of ways, freelancers have like more jobs, not less.
Yes, that's true. It happens to me. It used to happen a lot more. I've gotten so much better. But it happens to me all the time where someone will hire me to build their website, for example, and then they'll be like, "Can you tweak the about page?" And when I was, much younger, I was like, "That'll take me 5 minutes. Here you go. I'm not going to bother with an invoice because it would take me longer to write up the invoice and charge you than it did for me to make the tweak." And so I ended up probably giving away hours and hours and hours of my time simply because in my mind I wasn't valuing that time because it seemed so small. And there have been times when someone will say, I learned SEO because someone asked me about it. They were like, "Hey, you wrote all this, you wrote up all these pages for me. Are they SEO friendly?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I'm going to find out," which that worked out well, but it doesn't matter. Sometimes I find myself at 10 o'clock at night researching how to do something because I didn't say no when really something that was outside of my skill set.
Oh, you know what this reminds me of? Now, way back when I did events for Barnes & Noble, one of my first jobs, and this was in the 90s, it was like, okay, welcome aboard. Figure out how to do the calendar. And I learned whatever was the popular desktop publishing program at that time. And this was, like I said, it was the 90s. So it was before everything was easy. And I spent 2 days in Kinko's figuring out how to make a calendar. And it was,
and then you get through it and you're like, "Man, I should have charged more."
Well, it was my job, so it wasn't at that point. But if you think about it in today's terms, it's like every skill that you have that you learn for a client that you charge for, that you want to embrace, that is just something else you can add to your skill set, to your services, to what you have to offer. And the other part of it too, and we haven't even gotten to really the challenges yet, is if there's something that you want to do more of, you have the resources at your disposal to learn it.
Yes, definitely.
So, I have a web person for when I have like technical problems, because it's the sort of thing that I could figure out or he could do it and I don't have to worry about me breaking my website. There's certain, but I can do HTML, I know what goes into it. So there's certain things that I know just enough of to be dangerous about, to have conversations, but I also know which things that I love to do and which things are much better to pass along to someone who specializes in that.
Yes. And being a freelancer, you know how to recognize that line much faster than, say, a small business owner who's just wondering whether or not it's okay to outsource and which parts of their business to outsource.
Yeah, outsourcing is, well, we'll get to that. I think when we talk about when we're like, yeah, that's the next question.
I'm jumping ahead. I'm sorry.
we're jumping in circles. It's all good. So what do you find? Well, I'm going to answer this, and then you can jump in on this as well. One of the challenges of being a freelancer is finding that balance, because it's so easy to work all the time if you do not set limits and rules for yourself. Oh, I think that's the biggest thing, especially now with so many people working from home. It's essential to say, okay, I'm going to stop working at this time of day and on the weekends. No, you can't completely unplug. I mean, you can, I can't. But to say, I'm going to limit my connection on the weekend, and I'm going to limit my connections in the evenings so I can have focused, like, me time, family time, whatever time, where you're not thinking about work. If you put all into your work, then you can put all into your balance. Okay, go.
That is so true. That is definitely a big challenge. And it's one of the hardest ones that freelancers face. Another one is that a lot of freelancers have trouble, or they feel challenged with the idea that they're the boss. They still think of their clients as being the boss. So they ask the client what they're willing to pay rather than saying, these are my fees. And essentially, that's another challenge. And then of course there are the scams out there, the people who would, pretend to hire you and they get you to write a bunch of stuff for them, and then they ghost, they disappear, they take your work and they're gone. That's a pretty hefty challenge to try to overcome, and to set up a system not only to be able to go after those people and get the money for your hard work, but also to help kind of try to prevent it from happening in the first place can be hard. And then there's one of the other challenges too is all the well-meaning but ultimately bad advice that's out there. And there's a lot of really great advice too, but there's a lot of advice that I listen to and I'm like, I see where you got that from, but
no.
Yeah, no. Stop saying that to people.
Well, that's a very, very good point you brought up. Well, both of them. So let's attack the first one first. So how do you avoid, other than going by referral only, which you can do a lot of the time, but maybe not necessarily all of the time, how do you avoid these scammy people?
Well, one of the ways to avoid it is to strategically invoice. And a lot of freelancers, what they'll do is they'll take a deposit up front, 50% or something. And you can do that as well. But what I've found is that it's actually easier to set up multiple milestones and invoice every week, because then you're getting the clients into a habit of paying you every single week, and you have steady income coming in every week. But most clients, even if they pay a 50% deposit and then they ghost on you at the end, you're still out half the money.
Right.
So depending on what your price point is and what the work is, that could be a lot. So invoicing strategically helps almost all but eliminate that. No client who's trying to scam you is going to go through all that. So, they might go for like a couple of weeks, but then after that, they're like, you know what, this is just not worth the effort anymore. So you're not out as much work. And then you'll learn there are some warning signs that, I I'm sorry, I've got 15 different conversations in my head right now.
Only 15?
But one of the other things is if you're your client's friend, they're much less likely to scam you. And what I mean is, check on their dog, check on their kids, be a friend. And there's a time and a place for a professional relationship, obviously. But if you're also their friend, if you're also going above and beyond, not just for your clients, but just checking it, hey, COVID really is hitting your area hard. Are you okay? Then not only does this open up a door for a potential follow-up and customer service opportunity, but it's also you're their friend, you like them, and they like you, so they're not as likely to scam you for it.
Okay. So what are your thoughts about working with friends? Yes, no, maybe, sometimes, always? What do you think?
I am much better about it now than I was before. The thing with working with friends is you want to still make sure that you can separate the fact and be like, yes, they're a friend, but they are a client. And therefore, you treat them, when it comes to the professional side of your relationship, you treat them as a client. You send them their invoices on time. You collect payment on time. You stop work if they miss a payment on time. You can't get into the habit of, oh, they're my friends, so I'm going to go ahead and just not ask them to pay me. Like, you have to remember that if your normal process is to say, hey, you missed a payment, then you got to say it.
You treat, so if you work with a friend, it's okay to work with friends. I mean, we all have friends that we probably shouldn't work with, so you need to find
That's true.
get those warning signs, right?
Yeah.
Any red flags, and this is another litmus test I like to think of, is if someone is a pain at the beginning, it's a warning. Whether it is a friend or a different potential client, don't ignore those sirens and red flags going on you. Say, I really think this would be a better opportunity for someone else. And if you still like that person, you can refer them. Or if you don't, you could say, oh, well, maybe you should check XYZ website.
Right? Yeah. And the nice thing is, if you're already friends with them, then you kind of know, just based on their posts or what they complain about when they're like, oh my God, I just hired this writer and she's like that. Then you'll be like, I don't want to work for you. Please don't ask me. Please don't ask me. Like, and then if they do, you say, I'm swamped.
Oh, I am swamped is usually like a really good answer.
Yep.
If you don't want to say no, you could say, oh, I wish I could.
I'm so busy right now.
And what do you say? Because we're going back to the just say no question. When people say, hey, can you do me a favor and read this for me or write this for me or what? I'm sure it's happened to me more times than I can count. I'm sure it's happened to you as well. What do you do?
What do I do, or what do I? Well, typically, if it's someone that, yeah, okay, sorry, here comes the other one. There you go. It depends on who it is, honestly. If it's someone that like I grew up with, then I let them know, hey, I'm swamped, but if you don't mind waiting till the weekend. And because those types of projects, I have a lot of friends who are fictional authors, and we've been friends and bouncing ideas off of each other for decades. So when one of them come up to me, and they're usually the ones who come up to me, but when one of them do, I'm like, you know what, because that's a good relaxation thing. I get to read a book that no one else has seen yet on the weekend. If they can wait for me to do it around the edges, then I'm okay with that. If they can't, then I tell them, well, I will send you an invoice.
That's a nice compromise. No, I like that. That's good. And then there's some people who think they're friends and say, you know what, I'd love to help you out, but this is what I do for work. And you always have the option to give a friend rate, right? Or you can I hate to say this. You can always say, this is the special pricing, even if it's special pricing you give everyone. They don't need to know that.
Right? All of my prices are special.
Exactly. But I think the lesson is to value your work. And I always tell people, when you figure out what you want, what you're about, you have your motto, the thing that for yours, and we've never actually talked about this, it's empowering freelancers. That right?
Yeah.
So if something comes to you and it's within your motto, then yes, absolutely, you're going to do it. Or if outside your motto and it's something that brings you joy, then yes, it's also okay to do it. But for the things that don't, you could say, I'd really love to. It is out of my area. I don't have time. I this. But when you know that, it's like you preset a boundary that's going to help you with everything.
Yes. And it's one of the first things, because like so many other freelancers, I kind of stumbled in backwards. Like, I started taking clients and getting paid before I started a business kind of thing. And so, when someone was like really happy that I edited their website, and I was like, great, tell your friends. And then, a couple of years later, I was like, I don't have a mission. I don't have a business plan. I don't know how to expand. And, you realize those things when people aren't being referred to you anymore. And you're like, oh, now I got to go find my own clients. I got to go figure this out. And that's one of the things that was so important, was sitting down for that mission and that business plan and figuring out what I was trying to do. Because every assignment I take, from whether it's from a friend or from a brand new client that just happened across my website, it has to do something for me in some way. It's either adding to my portfolio, my skill set, my revenue. But right. I mean, if it's not helping me accomplish my mission, then I'm not going to do it. And it took me a long time to get in that mindset of, I have a mission that I am trying to accomplish, and my client work should help get there.
Awesome. Gold stars for you.
Yay, thank you.
Okay, so I want to address the other challenge about people getting bad advice.
Yes.
Sometimes you can't help it. My solution to it, and this is something I took, believe it or not, from a screenwriting course that I took when I lived in Chicago, before I lived in LA, many years ago. So that's how much this has stuck with me, is when you're like creating your mission, creating your business, you need to know what it is you are working on and be confident enough in knowing what you know, so that when you get advice, you can be objective about what comes to you. Now, I know that only helps so much. That is also for other advice. Before you take it, you need to say, okay, this is good, but is it good advice for me?
Yes, true. Yes, yep.
Okay, so what other tips do you have for the challenge of getting bad advice?
Take it all in, because you're still going to learn from bad advice. So
that's true.
You take it all in, and if you have your business plan set up and you have your mission statement set up, then you can kind of compare that advice against that, because your business plan is really a template for all of your business decisions.
Right.
So if you take that advice and you measure it up against your business plan, you'll have a better idea of whether or not it would work, or sometimes it just needs to get tweaked in order to work for you. It might work for someone else right out of the box. But really take it all in, and exactly what you said. It's like, I had a really good analogy in my head that just like flew right out. And I can't.
That happens.
My kid came in here squeaking, and now I can't think anymore. Oh yeah, it's kind of like going to a salad bar, right? Advice is like
which don't exist anymore, by the way. But good analogy.
but you take what you want and you don't sneeze on the rest. Like basically you just it's advice becomes advice primarily because it worked for someone. So
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to add one other thing, and this is one of my big pet peeves.
Good.
If you're showing your work, let's say it's a book proposal or an article or something you're working on, not necessarily for someone else but for you. You really also need to be careful about who you show your work to. Have one or two trusted people, but again, it goes back to you need to know your stuff before you show your stuff to someone else, because only you know you. And people are likely to either sway you in the wrong direction or encourage you in the wrong direction, or they have their own preconceived notions of how things should be. Again, it goes back to know thyself, know your work, know what you're creating. And also, I say no backseat drivers is the analogy I use in my book. Be really careful of the people that you share with, and also realize that even your trusted people might have a lack of objectivity. It doesn't mean you shouldn't share. It just means you need to be protective of what you're creating.
Yes, it's so true. And the people who you love the most, they're the worst when it comes to feedback. I'm there are two people you want to share this way. Really, there are two people you want to share your work with when it comes to feedback. It's your ideal client or a colleague who's in the same niche or has at least experience within your niche. And the reason for that is if you're sharing with your best friend who's a great person and you trust, they're going to feel obligated to give you feedback, but they're not giving you feedback from a place of, yes, this would work. They're giving you feedback based on whether or not it's in their space. And they always feel obligated to give you feedback, but a lot of times that feedback will completely derail you. So if they're not one of those two people, it's usually better to just, thank you for wanting to help. I got it covered. And find a group.
Well, and I tell people too, because every now and then I'll get a does your group do feedback? If people want to connect with other members in my Write On group, they can. And I've created a platform where people can become friends and find people with like minds, but I am the conduit for that sort of thing. And if people want my feedback, they need to, hire me.
Yes.
It's the I could as you can imagine, as the founder of something called Write On Online, over the years I've gotten some very interesting and on occasion long requests, and I'm like, sometimes it's you're welcome to post in the group or post in one of the threads. If you're new, my Write On Online group/Write On Online is all about community. Meeting new people, sharing your wins, and finding your people. So, this is a great transition into the next question, because it's also my answer. What are some great resources for freelancers? And it's the same as the best resource for anybody in any kind of business, consultancy, freelancing, whatever, is expand your community. Because the people that you know might not be your client or customer or resource or supplier or partner or whatever, but everybody knows people. And so my Write On Online group is all for the benefit of you share your wins, you have conversations, and it's creating conversations so people can find their people. Same thing with the Twitter chat, because I think people from Gold Chat have gone off and done projects together. You don't know what you can create. You don't know who you will meet unless you're out there. So that was my very long-winded transition. And I think you had some actual practical as opposed to interpersonal resources. So what do you recommend? What resources do freelancers need?
Well, I really do love the Write On Online group. I'm not super active in there, but I see it in my feed all the time, and I'm like liking pictures and whatnot, because it's such a strong, it's more than just a feedback critique group. It's really got that community, and hey, how are you going out there and networking, and what are your plans, and who's collaborating with who right now. Like, it's really a strong community feel to it. So I really do like that resource a lot.
Thank you.
You're
That's
so
what it's there for. No, but that is what it's there for. It started as a live group that became online community, and it's been going for like more than 10 years. So that's, between the page and the group. And it's, if you want to find your people, you need to go places where your people might be.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so what else?
What else? I am a huge fan of the Freelancers Union, just freelancersunion.org. I've been a member there for, I'm not even sure, over a decade now, I think. And they have various resources, from a blog with advice and tips, but they also have like tips on taxes and health insurance and all those kind of things that new freelancers aren't really sure. Like, what do you do if you quit your 9 to 5 and don't have health insurance and now you want to freelance? Like, they have those kind of resources at the ready for you.
Nice.
And there was another one that I mentioned that I cannot remember right now.
No, you talked about BR is Us, which does freelancer chat.
Yes. Michelle Garrett. Yes. She's another speaker at the summit next week. And she is freelance PR. And she does some content writing and whatnot. And she does a freelance chat similar to Gold Chat, in the sense that it's a weekly chat on Twitter. But hers is Thursday mornings, and it's all aspects of freelance, not just writing, but other freelance opportunities as well. And the advice that is shared there, everything from productivity to tool tips, she covers it every week. She covers a new topic. So that is really great if you can either participate live or find the replay of it, not the replay, the summary of it later. Go back. And she does a great job of bringing in experts every week to help.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to see, you just introduced me to a new person, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Michelle's awesome. You're gonna love her.
Well, and already Carol Tice connected with me on LinkedIn today, and I always say if you're involved in a conference, you should meet the people and develop the conversations beforehand. So I think we're kind of agreeing with each other. The community is really the best resource for any freelancer.
It really is. And I tell new freelancers this all the time. What sets apart a veteran, not a 10-year veteran, but like a 3-year veteran freelancer from a brand new freelancer, is that networking of part of it is an abundance mindset. You're not going, oh my gosh, where am I going to get my new client? Where am I going to get a client? But to a place where someone else who's working within the same niche, and you guys bounce clients off each other all the time. I'm swamped. I'm going to refer you to this person. You have those relationships set up, but also they're, every time I discover a new tool, I am in one of my writing groups going, oh my God, you guys, go check it out. It's free, or whatever the case may be. Like, I get so excited. I have to go share it with all of my friends. Or in your case, your book came out and I had it pre-ordered. I was like, oh, I'm getting that, Goal Guide for Freelancers. Yeah. I mean, that's not the title of the book, but in my head, that was the title of the book.
Well, I thank you.
You're welcome. But then I went and I shared it, because that's what the networking does. And we all strengthen each other in that way.
Well, and you also said you were doing the Freelance Writing Success Summit. I jumped on and I said, oh, you have to come on Gold Chat so we can share, just give people a little bit of a taste of what they're going to learn. And they're going to learn things completely different from what we talked about today, I am certain. But you never know. And when I think we need to give everybody like a bonus freelancer goal. So whether you're a freelancer or not, this is one thing you can do to improve your business. So what do you think? What should we tell people to do? No pressure.
Everything I knew about freelancing just left my head.
Of course. You're welcome.
Thank you. So the one thing, if there was one thing you could sit down that would turn your business around as soon as you got it done, it would be to pause and work out that business plan. Just stop taking clients for a minute, a day, an afternoon, and really sit down and decide not just why you're freelancing, but why your freelancing business exists. Because that's really going to be the template for every business decision you make, whether it be something as small as, do I want to be on Facebook or LinkedIn, or as big as, what kind of clients am I going to go for? What kind of writing am I going to offer? That's going to be really, it's going to help you discover yourself, your client, all of that.
Okay, work on the business plan. And if you're not at the business plan stage, you could just back up and do the D and the Deb method, determine your mission. Spend some time on that mission statement and the motto, because that will lead you to the plan.
Definitely. Yes. I should have started there. Your answer is way better than mine.
No, your answer is good, because I love the plan. People ask me, and I think I even say this in my session, why do goals fail? Because people overthink them or they underthink them. They do not plan. And when you take a step back and you think about what it is you want, what you want to create, it's like a gift to yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think the other lesson we're going to take from what you said, to tag on to what I'm talking about, is the pause. Sometimes you just have to hit the pause button. A lot of people on a mandatory pause button right now. Take advantage of it if you can. If you've got the space, if you're not too stressed out, breathe, meditate, and figure out, what is your mission? What is your motto? What is your business plan? What can you create to make you happy, but also to the betterment of other people? Boom, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm good.
Sorry, my kids started yelling, and I'm sorry.
Next time we talk, I'm doing, for the Women's National Book Association LA chapter on Wednesday, we're doing a work-life balance roundtable webinar. So I'll put the link to that in the chat as well. But you're like prime example of, this is what you do. You work from home. Sometimes your kids come in while you're working. Yeah. Sometimes you can continue to work. Sometimes you have to take a step back, breathe, say, it's cool. Mm-hmm. And then you go move forward. It's the dance, but everybody has that, even if their distractions aren't adorable children like yours are, they have that distraction. And sometimes you just have to go with it and take care of it. And then you get back to work, or you just do your own thing, breathe, and then you start up again. So it's the whole, and that's why I'm excited about this webinar on Wednesday. Everybody has their own version of work-life balance. And like we were talking about before, you can get advice from other people, figure out what works for them, and see which item on the now defunct salad bar should go on your plate.
I'm so sad that analogy is so perfect and it doesn't work anymore.
Well, we can get nostalgic.
True.
Okay, so I want to share your links again. So Freelance Writing Success Summit. Now this is free, right, to watch live? Is that how it works?
It's free to watch every session live. You'll have, once you register, you'll have access to, well, not once, after they go live, But each session will be available to you for 24 hours. So that way, if you can't make it live, but you can make it later in the afternoon, then you'll have that 24-hour window for each session so that you can kind of keep up with it.
Okay, sounds good. And you've got a lot of really cool stuff. And if people want to learn a lot of cool sessions, because I was looking through it before we talked today. So, and people want to learn more about you, it's helpmenaomi.com. Love it.
Thank you. My little ode to Star Wars.
It's awesome. And if you want to learn more about me, I'm at thedebmethod.com. And if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you can read the recaps from the Twitter chats and watch all the Goal Chat lives. And if you want to learn more about your goal guide, just go to yourgoalguideroadmap.com. And thank you so much for joining me today. It's really always good. First of all, it's fun to talk to freelancers because usually we're just talking to not ourselves, but you know what I mean? It's fun to have a nice peer conversation, but we're all in this together. So the more ideas that get out there, the more people can take from it and see what works for them and what they can incorporate to make their business more successful. So I thank you. Thank you all for watching, listening. If you have any tips on freelancing or how to make it better, how to avoid the challenges, please feel free to comment. And please, you can catch Goal Chat every Sunday night on Twitter at 7 p.m. Pacific. And I will be back here next Monday at 4 p.m. on the Mango Publishing Facebook page for another episode of Goal Chat Live. So I'm Deborah Eckerling. Thank you again, Naomi. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you.